something interesting has happened in the Philippine Air Force that could easily be overlooked. On August 18, 2026, the Philippine Air Force accepted a new batch of support and tactical vehicles at Clark Air Base in Pampanga. On paper, the delivery may not sound like a major military development. The package included 18 troop carrier trucks, 9 armored vehicles, and 2 passenger buses. But the 9 armored vehicles are attracting particular attention. The reason is simple. Their exact identity has not been clearly confirmed in publicly available information. Some observers believe they could be part of South Korea's Kia light tactical vehicle family, potentially a configuration associated with the K-152 and the Raybolt anti-tank missile system. If that identification turns out to be correct, these 9 vehicles could represent a much more interesting development for Philippine military modernization than the headline numbers initially suggest. Before going any further, however, there is an important distinction to make. The available information does not provide enough evidence to definitively identify all 9 armored vehicles as Kia KLTV, Raybolt-equipped platforms. So, this video should be viewed as an analysis of the possibility, not as confirmation of an officially announced acquisition. And that uncertainty is actually what makes this development so interesting. Let's start with the vehicles that are easier to identify. The Philippine Air Force received 18 125-ton troop carrier trucks. Vehicles in this category perform some of the least glamorous but most important jobs in any military. They transport personnel, equipment, ammunition, fuel, spare parts, communications equipment, and supplies. They move between bases, support deployed units, and keep operations running when more specialized platforms are unavailable. For the armed forces of the Philippines, logistics is particularly important because of the country's geography. The Philippines is an archipelago spread across thousands of islands, with mountains, forests, cities, narrow roads, remote communities, and long distances separating military installations. A sophisticated fighter aircraft or missile system is only useful if the military can actually sustain the personnel and equipment operating it. That means trucks matter. However, the trucks are not the part of this delivery that has generated the most attention. That distinction belongs to the 9 armored vehicles. The big question is, what exactly are they? One possibility is that they belong to the Kia light tactical vehicle family, commonly associated with South Korea's modern generation of military tactical vehicles. The KLTV concept was developed around a requirement for a vehicle that could provide significantly more protection and mobility than a conventional military truck while remaining small enough to operate in a wide variety of environments. That combination makes the platform potentially attractive to countries like the Philippines. Instead of relying entirely on large armored personnel carriers or unprotected tactical trucks, a light tactical vehicle can fill the space between the two. It can transport personnel, carry equipment, provide protected mobility, and potentially serve as a platform for different weapon systems. This is where the possible connection to the Raybolt becomes particularly interesting. The South Korean Raybolt is an anti-tank guided missile designed to engage armored targets. If a KLTV configuration equipped for such a weapon were eventually confirmed in Philippine service, it would provide the Philippine military with another mobile anti-armor capability. But there is a major difference between saying a vehicle can theoretically carry a weapon and saying the Philippine Air Force has actually received that weapon configuration. Those are 2 completely different claims. So for now, it is better to separate what is known from what is possible. What we know is that 9 armored vehicles were part of the August 18 delivery. What remains uncertain from the available information is their exact model and configuration. If they are indeed related to the Kia KLTV family, however, their significance becomes much greater. The KLTV family is designed around modularity. That means the basic vehicle can be adapted for different missions instead of being locked into a single role one. Configuration can emphasize troop transport. Another can focus on command and communications. Another can support reconnaissance. And other versions can potentially be adapted for weapons employment. This modular approach is becoming increasingly important in modern military planning. Instead of purchasing a completely different vehicle for every mission, armed forces can build a family of vehicles around a common platform. that can simplify training, maintenance, spare parts, and logistics. And for the Philippines, logistical simplicity can be extremely valuable. The armed forces of the Philippines operates a wide variety of equipment, acquired from different countries over many decades. American, South Korean, Israeli, European, and other systems can all be found across the Philippine defense inventory. That gives the Philippines access to many different capabilities, but it can also create challenges when it comes to maintaining and supporting such a diverse fleet. A common vehicle family can potentially reduce some of that complexity. There is another important question. Why would the Philippine Air Force need armored tactical vehicles? The answer becomes clearer when we look at the changing role of the Air Force. Modern air forces are not simply organizations that operate fighter jets and transport aircraft. They require ground units, security elements, air-based defense personnel, logistics teams, communication specialists, recovery crews, and other support organizations. Aircraft cannot operate without people and infrastructure on the ground, and those ground elements may have to operate in environments where protection and mobility are important. A light armored tactical vehicle can therefore support missions far beyond traditional battlefield combat. It could potentially move personnel between installations, support security operations, transport specialized teams, or provide protected mobility in areas where conventional vehicles may be more vulnerable. This is especially relevant as Philippine military modernization increasingly focuses on territorial defense. The country is developing a broader defense network involving aircraft, naval vessels, coastal missile systems, radar, drones, communications infrastructure, and ground forces. All of these systems need people and equipment capable of moving around the country. The result is that seemingly ordinary vehicles can become an important part of a much larger military system. Now consider the possible Ray-Bolt connection, an anti-tank guided missile, mounted or transported by a mobile tactical vehicle could provide a unit with the ability to threaten armored targets while remaining highly mobile. The advantage is not simply the missile itself. It is the combination of mobility, protection, sensors, communications, and firepower. A vehicle carrying an anti-armor weapon can potentially move with other units, relocate between positions, and support ground forces without requiring a large armored platform. But again, this is where we need to be careful. There is currently a difference between the capabilities associated with the KLTV family and what has actually been publicly confirmed about the Philippine delivery. Until the Philippine Air Force or another authoritative Philippine defense source identifies the vehicles and their configuration, claims about specific weapons should be treated cautiously. That does not make the development unimportant. In fact, the uncertainty itself is worth watching. If future photographs, official documents, procurement announcements, or Philippine military statements confirm that the 9 vehicles are Kia KLTV variants, the delivery could become an interesting indicator of deeper defense, cooperation between the Philippines and South Korea. The two countries already have an increasingly important defense relationship. South Korean equipment has become a visible part of Philippine military modernization. The Philippine Air Force operates FA-50 light combat aircraft supplied by South Korea, while South Korean defense companies have also been involved in other Philippine military programs. That means the potential appearance of another South Korean tactical vehicle family would fit into a broader pattern. And this pattern is not simply about buying equipment. It is about developing a defense ecosystem. Aircraft need ground support. Ground units need mobility. Missile systems need transport and communications. Radar systems need power. And maintenance naval units need helicopters and logistical support. And all of those capabilities ultimately depend on trained personnel and reliable infrastructure. That is why modernization should not be measured only by the number of fighter jets, warships, or missiles a country possesses. The supporting equipment can be just as important. The 18 troop carrier, trucks included in this delivery, demonstrate exactly that principle. They may never receive the attention given to a new fighter aircraft, but without trucks moving personnel, fuel, ammunition, spare parts, and equipment, military units cannot operate effectively. For long periods, the 9 armored vehicles potentially add another layer to that system. If they are simply protected transport vehicles, they still provide valuable mobility and protection. If they are specialized KLTV variants, their usefulness could be even broader. And if a Raybolt-equipped configuration is eventually confirmed, the Philippine military could potentially gain another mobile anti-armor capability. But none of those possibilities should be presented as confirmed facts until the Philippine government provides clearer information. For now, the most accurate conclusion is that the Philippine Air Force has received 9 new armored vehicles whose exact identity deserves further investigation, and that is enough to make the August 18 delivery worth watching. Because Philippine military modernization is entering a phase where relatively small acquisitions can have larger implications. The country is not attempting to build its defense capability around one single weapon. Instead, it is gradually assembling layers. There are fighter aircraft for air defense and combat missions. There are helicopters for mobility and support. There are maritime patrol and surveillance capabilities. There are coastal defense missile systems. There are new naval vessels. There are radar and sensor networks. And increasingly, there are mobile ground vehicles capable of supporting these forces. The goal is a more connected and mobile military, capable of operating across the country's enormous geographic area. In that context, 9 armored vehicles may sound like a small number. But military capability is not always about quantity. Sometimes the important question is what role a small number of specialized vehicles can perform inside a larger force. If these vehicles are confirmed as Kia KLTV variants, they could provide the Philippine Air Force with a modern protected mobility platform and potentially open the door to additional configurations in the future. If they are eventually confirmed to carry or support Raybolt anti-tank missiles, the story becomes even more significant. But until that confirmation arrives, the responsible approach is to keep the distinction clear between evidence and speculation. What is confirmed is the delivery. What is still being investigated is the identity and configuration of the 9 armored vehicles. And if more information emerges, these 9 vehicles could turn out to be one of the more interesting pieces of Philippine military modernization in 2026. The bigger story, however, goes beyond these vehicles. The Philippines is gradually transforming the way it thinks about defense. Modernization is no longer simply about replacing old equipment with newer equipment. It is about mobility, logistics, protection, communications, interoperability, and the ability to sustain operations across a difficult archipelagic environment. That means trucks matter, protected vehicles matter, sensors matter, missiles matter, and the people operating all of them matter even more. The August 18th delivery may therefore represent a small but potentially meaningful step in that larger transformation. For now, the question remains open. Are those 9 armored vehicles really Kia KLTV variants? And could some of them eventually provide the Philippine military with a Raybolt-capable mobile platform? Until official confirmation arrives, we will have to wait for clearer evidence. But if the answer is yes, this seemingly modest vehicle delivery could turn out to be much more significant than it first appeared.